Welcome to the Iron Breed Podcast. My name is Austin, and here again with me today is Gerard.
What's going on, everyone? How we doing today?
It is Friday, and we're going to talk to you about training. This is going to be kind of a fun one. We're just going to talk about some things that we like, some things that we've done, and all sorts of cool stuff that maybe you can apply to your training.
Exactly. So this is less going to be, like specific training styles or, periodized programs we've run and stuff, but just the, little quirks and things you pick up after just from years in the gym where you're like, all right, I really like this exercise and I like to do it this way. Or I use this machine and I actually don't use this machine how it's displayed whatsoever. I use it a completely different way.
Yeah, I actually had a moment of that earlier today. Um, okay, well, we didn't film those obviously today. So this is Saturday morning. I was at the gym and I was doing face pulls, but I'm not doing just face pulls. I actually took a seat at the seated cable row. I take a seat there and then I grab the Spud Inc. straps, put my hands in those. I mean, if you can watch the video on YouTube, great. Because if you're just listening on Spotify, you can't see this. But I'm sitting there and then I take that and I do my face pull and, focus on keeping the elbows up high. And it comes from a slightly lower position than it normally would if you're doing like a standing cable, face pull. And I even had somebody come up to me and be like, "Oh man, I've never seen anybody do that, but I'm totally stealing that." I was like, "Dude, do it." And then we spent like 10 minutes talking about the biomechanics of the movement. And I was like, "Oh, you must definitely have a degree in this too." And he's, you never know, like, but it's always about just trying to find stuff that works a little bit better, or stuff that you enjoy more. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, it helps you just kind of like diversify your workout program, try out some things. Like that's why I say like never judge anyone in the weight room because honestly, you can learn from anyone. I saw this one individual where all he was doing, he was taking the PVC pole and he would hold it at arm's length. He would let go and catch it really quick. And then he would bring it back up, let go and catch it real quick. And I was like, man, that's interesting. I was like, wonder why he's doing that. So during my, upper body warm up routine, I started trying it. And whoo, that's a lot harder than it looks to completely open your hand and then re-catch the PVC pipe. It actually like really fired that front delt. And so it felt pretty good. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna add this into my warm up routine along with some other one thing I'll do is I'll do these kind of like one arm walks where I take a dumbbell and rather holding it in the handle, I flip the dumbbell upright, I hold the bottom of it, I put my elbow up at 90 degrees, and I'll go walk up and down the turf. And so it really forces me to like make sure my shoulder is stable. And I'll do that a couple times as my warm up routines. And then of course, as Austin said, band face pulls. Yeah, or face pulls in general, you can't go wrong with them. Just any type of retraction. And so he mentioned that on the low cable. I really like that one. I've done that one before, but a lot of times I'll put the band up real high. I'll do kind of like, you know, in a regular fashion, but then I'll throw them into a neutral grip also, and try to pull just a little further back. So there's always just some fun things, little tricks, and you pick it all up from whoever you see in the gym.
Yeah, or even like, I know like for me with the face pull thing, it's so funny because I attack it different ways for certain purposes. So if I'm doing like warm-ups for face pulls, I'll actually like, or as part of my warm-up routine, I'll do them standing using a cable or using a band from a high position. Because for me, it's a warm-up. I'm still focused on keeping the elbows up, but like when I'm doing them as an actual like working set exercise, that's when I do them on the seated cable row because I find that it forces me, I can't get my body as much behind it, and it forces me to like really isolate those muscles, and so it makes it way harder, and I'm using way less weight. But it definitely works it way more. And the only reason why I ever started doing that or tried that was because at one point in time, all the standing cable attachments were being used, and I was like, I need to do face pulls right now. I guess I can do it sitting here from this. So just because, don't be afraid to experiment. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Like you know, some people you see doing some stuff and you're like, okay, I don't really know how that has relevance to anything. But don't be afraid to experiment. I mean, now don't be one of those people that uses like the leg curl to like do like bicep curls. Like that's a great idea, but like, you know, it's okay to like experiment with some different things and find out what works for you.
There definitely is. You know, I have to actually post this on Friday. I saw one individual do this, and I had to try it out for my chest workout, where you take the I think it's called a Bosu ball, but basically it's the has a flat surface, but then it has the kind of like bouncy portion of what one of those like physio balls looks like. And so you take that, you put that on the ground in the Smith machine, and that's actually your backrest. That's your bench. And you unrack the Smith machine, and your back is on this, you know, half a Bosu ball, or is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called.
Yes.
I'm not sure. You know, you always see them in the weight rooms. You never like you're just like, okay, that's the half ball thing. And anyway, so you go ahead and you bench off of that. And whoa, was that different. So what was cool about it is, one, it allows you to get like a little further down as far as like that stretch in the chest. But then as you go to push, it pushes you into the ball surface. So you actually have it feels like a greater distance that you have to then press upwards as well. It was really cool. It was really tough. So I did that as a variation on my chest day. So they, you always like are able to learn new things, try different things. Like I said, just from viewing other people. This hands down, I'm a big fan of giant sets and drop sets, or just, you know, throwing it all together. I think this comes from like a lot of when I learned in, you know, college, this time under tension, and just, you know, how much work you can get done in one working set. So I love a set that can sometimes last, you know, upwards of like 2 to 3 minutes. But this is my favorite shoulder, I would say, giant drop set, and that would be regular seated press. As soon as you fail out on that, grab a lower dumbbell, go into Arnold presses, finish those out. Grab a pair of lighter dumbbells, go into, I do almost kind of like a hybrid side raise that's more like 45 degrees, so kind of like a side front raise. You do those with like twice, so one with the heavier dumbbell, one with the lighter dumbbell, and then you finish off. You take a band, it's underneath your seat. You put it on each wrist, and you do side raises just to finish it out. Oh man, that set, no matter what, hands down, just wrecks me every time, and it's my favorite.
You know, the gym that I train at now is like a pretty strict like bodybuilding gym, if you will. And like by that, I mean like it has machines out the ass. I mean, it's got a leg press that's like literally like you have to climb like 6, 7 feet in the air just to get up to sit. Yeah, I know it's wild. It kind of actually like blows my mind to the point where there's like way more machines than there are like actual free weight things. So like it's a little overwhelming for me because I've been like, whoa, everything I've ever done has really always been um, mainly free weight based for the most part. So for me, going into like using a little bit more machines and a lot of my training has been like, this is kind of weird, but I've kind of been liking it because some of these machines are like weird. And I like to experiment with some of the machines. Particularly speaking, there's this one hack squat machine at the gym that I like a lot. I could feel like I could load like a ton of weight on there and just keep squatting it. And I face away, or actually, I face the backrest instead of actually putting my back there. And I don't know. I tell you what, it just loads my legs in such a way that is so I don't know. Like it just hits my quads, my hams, and my glutes so hard and I love it. And then I like it more than regular front squats because I'm not a big fan of front squats, but I'm not a fan of front squats because they're hard and I'm not super good at them, which means that's why. So with that being said, that's why I do this machine. Yay, yay for machine.
Yeah, I feel you there on front squats. One variation I did, I read about it, was if you actually put a wood block or like a 25-pound plate underneath your heels on any type of squatting variation, just how it recruits your vastus medius like far greater. And I really did notice that. So I remember for a couple of years back, I did that for a front squat cycle where I always had heel raised front squats, and that helped out a little bit. I think something just to allow, kind of similar to what a heel raise squat shoe would do, able to get a little lower in a better, position. But man, it blew up the quads as well. And so, like what Austin said there about just like kind of, we'll put it up. I actually think you put it up on the page, didn't you? Like
Yeah,
last week or something.
yeah.
So we'll do some demonstrations for these. Go ahead, reach out if you have any questions about them. But yeah, don't be afraid to use a machine not how it's traditionally supposed to. It's actually very funny how oftentimes you can get a really great effect out of a machine using it completely like how you're not supposed to. So one thing I'll do for it's the low row hammer strength, where traditionally you're like kind of up and you would row down. I'll just leave my arms out and I'll do scapular retractions and just hit my traps and scapula, and that'll be what I. And man, when I tell you, I get people, they're like, "What is this guy doing? He's not using this machine, right?"
It's funny you mentioned, the heel raised front squats. And, now that I've been bodybuilding as opposed to powerlifting, so I made the switch to bodybuilding in like January of this year from powerlifting because I just needed a break. And it's funny how I do so many similar movements, but I do them so differently now. So, for example, all my squats, I have squat shoes. I have heel raised squat shoes. And for all my bodybuilding squats, I don't know what makes them so different. I just put little like 5 pound plates underneath my shoes. And I wear regular like shoes to the gym or like, my Vans to the gym. And then I just put plates underneath. I'm like, I have squat shoes, but yet here I am. For some reason, I only break out the squat shoes when I'm like, no, we power lift today. But like, oh yeah, we're just in here bodybuilding. Like I'm not off the world. I'll just throw some plates under there. We'll be good. Or even if they have one, some gyms have this. I know my gym does, but not everybody gym does. It's like the actual like little like elevated like metal plates, if you will. Like it's like
Oh yeah.
those are pretty sweet. If your gym has those and you can use those to squat, you could also use those for like RDLs too.
Yeah, to even hit home with that, if you're in a situation kind of like I just got back into where the gyms are either, closed again or still closed, if you have access, even if it's like a pair of lighter dumbbells or just, like a heavy object, bust out those big old college textbooks you have just sitting around if you didn't sell them, put two of those on the ground and do heel raised RDLs. That's what I've had to do currently. Well, my at home workouts, and you just have a greater range of motion. You can get a really good stretch as you're in that bottom portion of the RDL, and they're mean. They do the work, like they do the job nicely. Another one I really enjoy is like especially like when you learn more about biomechanics and especially just how the body works and everything integrates, you realize that everything is just in some way or form an act of leverage. And so if you're trying to recruit a muscle group, it's okay, how do I, use that leverage to the best benefit that I'm getting, putting the most load on that area. And so one thing I really like for cable side raises, as I see most people hold the handle, I actually never hold the handle. I always use the kind of strap handles, not like the big metal handles. And the strap handle I put around my wrist. And so at the where the load sits now is on my wrist versus in my hand. So then as I go to raise, I feel a greater recruitment on that side deltoid because I'm taking out all of the recruitment that my hand and forearm would otherwise have. I can also lift more weight now because I'm not limited by the joint structure of the wrist. That was a big one for me. I remember I showed it to one guy I was training with one time, and he was a big bodybuilder guy. He was like, "Whoa, man, I never would have thought of that."
And it's actually really funny because on the side laterals, I used to never do dumbbell lateral raises. If you remember me at Lockhaven, you'd always see me doing the cable. I would do those sword draws.
Yeah.
Now I never do cable. I almost always do dumbbell. And the whole time, I keep my arms completely straight and I only go up like a third to like somewhere between a third and half of the way up. And honestly, man, and I do a shit ton of reps like that. That lights up my side delts so much. And I've actually noticed, like, now that I'm like way leaner, I actually have like more rounded shoulders. And I'm like, damn, I don't know if it's a function of being leaner or just like these are probably a little bit of both. But I mean, the way that like I do one set of those though at the gym, like my first working set, and my shoulders are like, oh, we're here to play today. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. There's so many different ways you can do things. That
Exactly.
the tweaking thing is a little bit to make them more efficient. It's crazy.
Yeah, I like with that cable side raise variation. That's why you mentioned like whether you go between dumbbells or cable still. I like the easy bar cable upright rows far greater than I like, doing it with easy bar that's plate loaded or a pair of dumbbells. That really seems to pull my shoulder forward. And so the AC joint gets a little drop forward. It doesn't feel as comfortable. Whereas if I use the easy bar on a cable, so literally I'll do my cable side raises, drop to the easy bar, do some upright rows. I can be leaned back and have a greater, it feels like extension all the way up and lower it a little slower. So I enjoy that one a lot. This will be a fun one. Me and Austin talked about this before we started recording is how do you use the preacher curl machine? There's several ways, but like we were talking about like, okay, do you sit in it? Do you angle your body so you're at like a lean? If it's high enough, do you just do the standing ones? There's a million ways you can just, pray to the weight room gods and, get your curls in.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really funny. So plate loaded or just like, free weight, I stand. But if it's like one of the machines where you put the pin in the weight stack, I sit. I don't know what it is. There's something, I don't know why I do that. I guess I'm just weird. But I'm like, oh yeah, you put the weight and you just sit here and you just go to town. I also like to do a lot of drop sets on those, whereas like the plate loaded ones, I usually can't do that because it means you have to get up, take weight off, then go sit down, and it kind of like defeats the whole. So
Yeah. I'm with you there. It's funny. I do it the opposite though. When it's the pin loaded seated one, I'll usually like extend my legs out, and then my kind of like my armpit is the whole way in the actual rest, and my arms fully extended. I dip my head and I curl, try to get my hands almost over behind my head, and I'll do the same thing with the pin. And those are so nice. You can just start at a heavy weight and just kind of run the stack and just drop, drop, drop for each of your sets. But then when it comes to the gym I do currently go to has a very, I think it's actually meant for standing. It's a very tall preacher curl. So I'll do some single arm ones with those. And then on the flip end with that, instead of doing it where it's at the actual slanted portion of the curl, you switch it and now it's the vertical drop portion. And you can do hammer curls or you can do, your regular preacher curls. Just you can use that thing for whatever you want. You use a barbell, a easy bar. Like, who knew there were so many ways you could use the preacher curl?
and what's really funny is this is where it probably gets even funnier. You will not catch me curling heavy weight. For the life of me, I do not pick up heavy dumbbells to curl. I pick up 30, 35 pound dumbbells. That's probably where I sit. If I'm feeling adventurous, I'll do maybe 40s. Same deal even on the machine. You won't catch me loading those up with a ton of weight. I'd rather do a shit ton of reps. But see, that's just what I found to be better for me because I feel like if I'm using too much weight that I overcompensate with other muscle groups and not even my biceps. And like, let's be real, biceps aren't that big. I mean, unless you're like Ronnie Coleman, right? Your biceps aren't. There's only two little small muscles that can really do so much weight. So triceps, on the other hand, I seem to have the complete opposite idea. I'm like, yeah, I'll let me lift this shit as I can on triceps. It's weird. I don't get it, but they seem to work. So
Yeah, triceps you can get into a lot of, variation as well. I literally I'll do one that is actually, it's funny, it's a shoulder, it's a seated machine shoulder press, but I do it at the neutral position. So my arms are in close. I'll push up. So it really feels like the load was completely there on the front deltoid as well as the tricep. And then to follow, I do closer to a diamond grip, or excuse me, a diamond push up to just blast the triceps afterwards. And, oh, that's a mean one. That one is tough. I usually like about like however many push-ups I get in. That's like, all right, can't get that one. I'm done.
Yeah, it just goes to show you there's so many different variations of ways that you can do things. I know, like, I I'm like 50-50 on dips, doing dips on
Yeah,
the machine, and like how far apart the handles are on how it makes my shoulders and my elbows feel. But like I love like the seated dip machines though. Oh man,
that's true. That's so true. Yeah,
belts, you like put your seatbelt on, strap yourself in, you get that angle right, load that shit up, and boom. Oh man, you go to town. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny how many different variations and different ways there are to do things. Um, I'm sure we could literally go on forever. Um, but we want to know, what are your favorite variations? Like, what do you do? Post up your variations and tag us in it. We want to see it. If you got anything super quirky that you do that you're proud of, or maybe not so proud of, tag us in it. We want to try them out. Hell, I'm always looking for different ways to go about doing things. So I know I definitely am. I know Gerard probably is too.
definitely. If you got some cool ones out there, whether it's, dropping a comment on, the podcast, YouTube, even just, our Instagram, like Austin said, tag us in anything you do. It's always like I said at the beginning of this, you can learn from everybody from a day one, gym beginner to somebody who's been training for 20 years. There's always something new you can try. So I think that's the fun part is, learning what you like, what your body handles well, and just getting out there and doing more.
Awesome. Well, it's been a fun one. Like you said, hit us up on Instagram, subscribe, comment. The whole 9 yards. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You know where to find us. My name's Austin.
And this is Gerard. Oh, do I get to say it this time, Austin? What do you
Oh,
say?
go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. And thank you for listening to the Iron Breed podcast. Yeah.